Dr. Kemi for Kemi Talks Media, Sunday, the 25th of May, 2025. Continuing the celebration for Africa Day, there are many things going on in Nigeria in itself that needs to be addressed. One of the biggest problems with media in Africa is that media outlets are owned by politicians and businessmen. I was trained in North America, Baltimore, Maryland. In America, media ownership is very strictly regulated. Politicians and businessmen technically cannot own media houses. There was a big ruckus when Jeff Bezos of Amazon wanted to buy the Washington Post. It now puts them in a position where they cannot do endorsement for political candidates because it's known in North America that TV stations, magazines, and newspapers endorse political candidates. For example, Mrs. Hillary Clinton ran for president and she was endorsed by the New York Times. Everybody knows that if the New York Times is endorsing you, you're a good Democrat. They're very democratic. Fox News is leaned towards the Republicans. Okay, Rupert Murdoch's Fox News. So you kind of get what I'm saying there. But in Africa, most of our media outlets are owned by powerful politicians and businessmen. So there's a conflict of interest. You can't technically see TVC endorsing President Tinubu for presidency because it's owned by President Tinubu. The Nigerian Tribune is owned by the iconic politician Obafemi Awolowo. Look at what the Tribune has turned into. At one point, we used to call it the Ibadan paper. And my father was one of the people that helped ruin that paper by paying so many brown envelope journalists money to distort news and to technically suppress many things. Oladapo Ogunwusi, who is my father's spokesman, he's the one arranging my father's funeral and all that bullshit. He's the one. You saw him when he came to my page to abuse me and call me a mad woman. They shouldn't allow a mad woman near a corpse, referring to my father. Dr. Ogunwusi was the one that spearheaded a lot of the brown envelope work that my dad did. When my father was alive, I spoke out about some of this stuff. No one paid attention because my father said they should portray me as a mentally unstable person. My father will pay Dr. Ogunwusi to actually publish articles against the opposition. I will watch my father write some of these articles. For example, why Jonathan must not win 2015. It was on his desk. And to go to the bathroom from my room in that Molete house, I have to pass by my father's desk. He put a mini office in the hallway. His office is across the street, but he put a mini office in the house. So for me to go to the bathroom, I have to see everything on his desk and come back. I saw that article at 2 a.m. and I read it. In the morning, Lalu Afolabi, one of the reporters at the Tribune, picks up the article, gets paid money in an envelope. Money went out in an envelope going to Dakpo or whoever. And then you'll see that article come out in the papers the next day. And it'll say why Jonathan must not win 2015 by Lalu Afolabi. They'll put the name of an editor or a reporter on that article. It's called ghostwriting. And my father wrote so many articles that distorted so much in Nigeria and even the government. Unfortunately, this man, almost 90 years old, died and they're all celebrating him. And you see why I broke out into post-traumatic stress, because my father was part of the ruining of Nigeria and he did his behind. When I spoke out and spoke out and spoke out, all my videos in 2015 are on this page on Facebook. Many of you call me mentally unstable. You see, that mentally unstable narrative caused you to be where you are today. Unfortunately, this is how the Nigerian Tribune worked. And they're still doing it till today. Would Awolowo like that? No. Awolowo's daughter, son, have all run this paper. Wale Awolowo, my father's very good friend. Wale was chairman of Nigerian Tribune, at one point before he died. It was my father's roommate at the confab. Both of them fled when they heard Abiola was going to be killed that night and other Yorubas. They drove 16 hours from Abuja to Ibadan. And if you know Wale Awolowo, he does not have a driver. He does not like drivers. My father and Wale Awolowo switched 8 hours on the steering wheel. I will tell you stories in my memoir. Shocking stories. Things you need to know. Unfortunately, in Africa, there's no other journalists like me. Many of them are either scared or they work for the oppressors themselves. In America, you have a problem, you go to the media. They're consumer reporters, not VDMs, okay? Nigeria has never had a single consumer reporter going out to check on consumer issues with the public, issues with banks, telecoms, everything. No one does that. Only VDM has actually stood up for people on that. All that Jenny's Glow and all that bleaching cream and all that stuff, it was VDM that went against all these celebrities selling fake creams. I'm a pharmacist. I kept quiet. I was watching the whole thing. That's when VDM broke out in 2022 to 2023, and everybody got to know him. He took the bull by the horn. I sat down because these things I've gone through it with NAVCAT. Since 2010, I've been trolling NAVDAC to take care of this and that. They ignored me. She's mentally unstable. And God gave us VDM to now amplify it. But VDM can't be forever on these things. Everyone has to talk. This is the problem we have in Nigeria. Now, back to the media. Media ownership in Nigeria. You cannot go to the media. You can't say you're going to complain to TVC or anywhere else. AIT is owned by a PDP stalwart who died, Dokwesi. Tribune Awolowo. Nation newspaper and TVC. Tinubu. Who do you want to go report to? Then you have the powerful businessman. The Guardian newspaper is owned by the Hebrews. The Hebrews, they have a history of corruption in that family. Okay, Yoruba people, you can come for me in the comments. I don't give a fuck. Okay? Hebrew was one of those guys, okay, that's, according to my father, after the coup, when Okotieba was killed, the only person killed in 1966 coup in the cabinet, aside from the president, the prime minister, and others, the minister of finance was eliminated because he was looting. Allegedly, that's what those army boys said. Everybody saw the lavish life Festus Okotiebo lived. Some of you are too young, you're Gen Z. You don't even know Festus Okotiebo. If you Google his name, you'll see he was always wearing a long train, like a wedding train, the Urobo outfit. He was very lavish, and he had 2 whales. I've told this story many times. If you missed it, you're hearing it now, because when you heard it, I was mentally unstable. Festus Okotiebo had 2 wills. He stashed money with his friend, and he stashed money elsewhere. When he died, some of the money he stashed with his friend was supposed to go to his family, and he did not release that money to them. Till today, he used the money to open businesses in Yoruba land. And that friend was Ibru. Michael Ibru, Olorogun Ibru, the late Ibru, opened all his businesses, from fisheries to banks to everything, with Nigeria's money. That's what I'm going to call it at this point, because that's what I've always called it. It is Nigeria's money. I sat down 2.5 hours with my father on these stories of Nigeria. If you want to confirm some of this stuff, head to Daily Momodu's page and go see the 6-hour interview that Daily Momodu did with my father. And I think that was 2022. He wanted to interview my father from 12 to 1 on Instagram Live. It turned to 12 to 6. And then at the end, he said, if we had gone to London at the beginning of this interview, we would have just been arriving in London now. A 6-hour interview on the history of Nigeria. If anybody's going to tell you the history of Nigeria, it will be Kemi Olunloyo. I'm a damn good journalist, okay? Let me remind you of that. I'm retired now. I'm a damn good journalist, and I'm the only one that will tell you the truth. And some of these Africa Day stories will shock you. So at the end of the day, you cannot go to the newspapers and the TV and radio stations that's owned by the politicians and businessmen. You are going to complain to the same people oppressing you. So there's no fair media in Nigeria. Independent media, I could have started one. I was begging everybody for 1,000 naira times 770,000 people on Facebook. That's 770 million. I can open a media house, a digital center for young people, everything. But you don't think like that. You only think about, oh, she's a beggar, she's a beggar. You don't want progress for Africa. I've not even got to other countries. I'm just talking about Nigeria now. You don't want progress for Africa. That's why you're on a standstill. You're trapped by the media, owned by the people frustrating you. When the bullion van was entering Tinubu's compound, I asked Bidemi and everybody at Channels, why couldn't you guys report that? Because their boss told them not to report it. Channels is owned by John Momo. He's a powerful businessman and is Tinubu's friend. He told them not to report it. A bullion van the day before the election. TVC obviously wouldn't report that. Ibru owns The Guardian. This day is owned by Obaigwena. Nduka Obaigwena is technically a PDP man. Okay, he's run for something before, so he kind of falls under that politician media thing. He's a journalist too, of course. So think about it. Media ownership has to be regulated in Africa. This is what Scaling the Voice says.